On his first visit to Latin America since he started his second term, President Obama met with new Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto to discuss the economy, trade relations, and security. Speaking at the National Anthropology Museum, he stated that the U.S. is a nation of immigrants and needs to pursue reform.
The immigration system we have in the United States right now doesn't reflect our values. It separates families when we should be reuniting them. It's led millions of people to live in the shadows. It deprives us of the talents of so many young people, even though we know that immigrants have always been the engine of our economy, starting some of our greatest companies and pioneering new industries.
While Obama spoke about his desire for reform, hundreds of family members of Mexican immigrants, deportees, and activists gathered in front of the U.S. Embassy, demanding an end to deportations and advocating for immigration reform with a human rights framework. Margarita Torres was recently deported from the United States and spoke at the march.
Yo estuve en Estados Unidos 20 años trabajando en el campo, en las huertas para poder llevar el sustento a mi familia. Pero un día fue migración a mi casa con engaños a decir que eran policías. Cuando nosotros acabamos de llegar de trabajar, nos arrestaron a mí y a mi hijo. Fui enviada para aquí, para México, a mi país, y es injusto porque mi familia se quedó. Yo me tuve que traer a mi niña de 10 años. Y hoy en día esta carta yo quisiera que le llegara a Barack Obama para ver cómo destruyen las familias, cómo destruyeron mi familia, y no nada más la mía, miles de familias de todo el mundo. Es injusto porque solamente buscamos algo mejor para nuestros hijos.
Torres was not alone in sharing her story of being separated from her family. Veronica Solis was an undocumented immigrant for over a decade in San Francisco and recently returned to Mexico to try to adjust her migration status. Addressing the crowd, she stated that Obama's immigration policies were even worse than Bush's.
I felt that the Latino community was really fooled by his campaign, pretending that he understands our situation, and he seems to me, in fact, I believe that he seems to me that he got all the information and the needs that we have there, and then he started, and the whole first term, nothing happened regarding immigration. Well, we see that after a while, then the security community comes, the redadas from ICE, and even in San Francisco, that it's been said that it's a sanctuary for immigrants, we feel the fear and we hear from firsthand people that were arrested.
When facing deportation, many immigrants have options for relief if they have citizen children, are married, or have lived in the U.S. for more than 10 years. However, in order to fight their cases, they have to do so from within immigrant detention centers, and many opt instead to take voluntary departure so that they won't be incarcerated. Jose Velasquez took this option after receiving a deportation order for driving without a license in California.
And it was kind of hard for me that day because I just barely signed that paper, and I was in Tijuana 2 hours later. I was being separated from my family. My family, I didn't even have time to say bye to my family, to my friends, to my town, to my neighborhood. It was something really hard.
Over the past decade, immigration has skyrocketed among Central American populations. An estimated 500,000 people pass through Mexico on their way to the U.S. every year, traveling on freight trains, and it is estimated that 10,000 of them are kidnapped yearly by organized crime. The protest honored these migrants who were killed during the journey and drew silhouettes representing a group of 72 Central and South American migrants who were killed by the criminal group the Zetas while traveling to the U.S. Pedro is from Honduras and lived in New York for over 7 years until he was deported. While trying to return to the U.S., he was threatened by organized crime groups who murdered 2 of his travel mates. He is now under protection orders and participates with Acción Migrante.
Niños perdidos, niños allá, padres por aquí y simplemente familias rotas. Yo soy uno de ellos. Mi familia está allá. Bueno, quedó. Tengo 7 años de no ver a mi hijo. Casualidad por el día de esto lo miré por internet. So, él dice, yo, daddy, when you get back, I say, I'm sorry, son, I can't right now. No puedo. ¿Por qué? No puedo. No puedo contestarle nada.
The current immigration reform legislation being debated by the Senate right now focuses on increasing border security between Mexico and the U.S. Adolfo Cuevas is an investigator with the non-governmental organization Fundar and says the government's logic is backwards.
Well, I think human rights must be like the main pillar of any immigration reform. It's not about economy, it's not about border security, it's about human safety. And when we're not designing policies based on human safety and based on human rights, it's a policy that it's not going to guarantee the well-being of people.
Marco Castillo works with Migrant Families Popular Assembly and helped coordinate 2 weeks of action around migrant rights, including forums and the embassy protest.
And today he has a chance to embrace human mobility and the right to have a dream and to look for a better life by passing an immediate administrative order to stop all deportations, to support the efforts for a very progressive immigration reform that would include an absolute immediate amnesty for all the more than 10 million families that are being separated throughout the world because they're currently living and working in the United States.
As U.S. politicians gear up to pass comprehensive immigration reform legislation, Mexican citizens say they will continue to fight for family reunification and human rights for all. Andrew Janal, The Real News Network, Mexico City.